What's going on, everybody? I hope all is well. A question I've been seeing recently kind of come up, or some direct questions I've been having, have been basically, should I get some resistance bands and some external weight, or what's the main difference between the two when you're considering adding some external resistance to a total gym or sliding bench trainer? So I'll talk about all these things in this video. I'll also link everything down below of the different resistance bands that I use and the weight plates I've been using. I believe my Undersun promo code still works as well if you guys do buy direct from them, so that'll be down there as well. And some people have been asking me too if I even still like my resistance bands, do I even still use them, because I haven't been seeing them in a lot of video, because I did make a number of videos that you can still find on my channel. I think it's just under bands, like a bands playlist on my channel, where I kind of focused and talked a lot about different resistance bands, tension and sights. And it's not that I really don't like them or think they do provide adequate resistance. It's just that I kind of still like how these machines perform on their own. But recently, using those external weight plates, you guys have been seeing that in past videos, that I really like how that tension, feels. So in this video, I'm really going to talk about some primary differences and thoughts I'm having on some of the core exercises, like pressing, pulling, and just legs, and talk about the pros and cons of each, and just do like a back-to-back and kind of what my initial thoughts are, because it's been a while since I've actually even used my resistance bands on my total gym for the most part. And certainly there's going to be some personal preference, so definitely comment down below on things that you prefer, or how you like to kind of incorporate various types of external resistance on your equipment. And as always, if you guys do like this content, please consider liking and or subscribing. It's always helpful, and I'm always appreciative of all the support you guys have been giving me. Thank you so much. Now, I'm not going to talk about the various ways you could attach resistance bands to a total gym or sliding bench trainer. I made a whole video about that, which I can link down below. Again, there's all sorts of ways you can do that. I don't know necessarily if total gym or all these various manufacturers really recommend doing this. I've been doing it for some time. A lot of you guys have been doing that. So do it at your own risk and possible detriment to the machine. But with that being said, where you attach these resistance bands is definitely going to play a role in the different tension that you get. So I'm going to make it very basic though. I'm going to take a maybe second to lightest tension, at least on this Undersun pack that I got. I'm going to wrap it around, very basic, just around the weight bar attachment. So what this is going to provide already is you're kind of starting with really no tension, obviously, and it's going to gradually kind of ramp up. Versus if I attach this resistance band to a higher spot, you're already kind of starting with a nice kind of elastic kind of play. So for some exercises, that can be good. But for a basic chest press, I find this works out pretty well. So we'll try some foundational exercises and movement patterns. First thing we'll do is just basic chest press or pushing. We'll do some pulling, and we'll do some legs as well. I think that's going to be adequate to kind of give you guys my thoughts on the matter. Again, I haven't done this in a while, and giving you guys a direct comparison. First, just doing some basic pressing. Now on this one, we're already kind of starting out with like a pre-stretch, so there's already some tension in here, unlike if we did legs, where it would be starting with like a kind of a dead hang. So just pressing through here. The biggest thing I think you notice, and just like resistance bands, it's kind of like it's a little different, because yes, when you do a resistance band press or any resistance band exercise, the tension is going to be variable, and obviously the more you press or the more you're going through a range of motion, the more that tension kind of increases. So it kind of feels, it replicates that. You can definitely up the ante very easy. Even if I took like the smallest setting, which is why I like these Undersun packs, I've said this many times, is because of this really small band. And I'm sure you could buy a band like that separately if you guys don't, but I really like having that really small option. Even this just made a huge difference. You wouldn't think it would, but already a lot of tension here. Now what I like and also don't like is that with some simple tension resistance on this exercise, it can get very hard very fast. Unfortunately, what you kind of lose in that is that kind of even flow, kind of smoothness of an exercise, because you do feel like once you get to here, you kind of have to grind out those last few sets, which I like. But at the same time, I talk a lot about kind of feeling that muscle and the tension in the muscle, so that can be an issue. Now let's just throw some weight on here and kind of see how that feels. All right, so we got the weight set up. Let's do a couple presses here. I do just prefer this, at least for the chest presses. I just like how this tension is just even. It just really just feels like how you think it would feel. It just feels like you're pressing off like a heavier glide. It just feels, you just feel that resistance on here. We'll probably do this for all these since I'll do it right now. Let's kind of throw on some added tension onto this, kind of get the best of both worlds. So I'm gonna put the smallest band on here. And I'm going to keep reminding you guys, now definitely the attachment sites makes a big difference, but for the sake of time, I'm not going to mess with that too much. But that's where your guys' comments can kind of come into this. All right, same thing. Let's do a couple presses here. Now this feels really good. And sometimes that's why, to be fair with the resistance bands, it is sometimes about finding that adequate, perfect amount of resistance. Like this feels really good. This is like the best of both worlds. And again, I mean, I almost want to get some smaller ones. If I find one, I might link them down below. I might talk about that in a future video, but want to try maybe some more of these. I think would be really good. I think that's something that's just popped in my head now. I think will make a big difference. You know, definitely adding little increments in weights can make a difference. I am gonna go out and invest in some more different weight increments and heavier weights in this, but that feels really good, just the best of both worlds. But as far as I'm judging between the resistance band feel and the weights, kind of like how the weights feel, at least on just basic pressing. All right, we're gonna set up with some rows. I'm actually just gonna grab these SunPow bands. I did do a review on these a while ago, but I'm actually gonna talk about this. Now with rows, I always talked about that with nothing on, a basic seated row, and this is not for everybody, because I know some people, like even my wife, finds that these are hard enough on their own in a given incline. For me, it feels like I have to do a lot of repetitions, really focus on the exercise, or go single hand. But I always said when I first did resistance bands that this was something that definitely started stressing in otherwise kind of more easier exercise, or something to do a lot more weights or repetitions to kind of get something out of. So I found that if I put a heavier band on, it kind of stresses me pretty good. So we're gonna do that. Go ahead and sit cross like this. And again, this is something that for a relatively, like I said, easier exercise for me, this, is a nice tension and stress that I can't get too much out of. But again, you have that typical, which is to be expected, that typical resistance band feel. So it's easier, then gets kind of hard. And that's kind of the thing with resistance bands that I personally, it's a love-hate. I like how you can increase the tension and make stuff harder, which on a total gym is necessary for some things. Otherwise, you have no other options to make something harder. Certainly there's other things you can do, tempo and everything like that. But like I've been saying and keep saying, really, this is a matter of finding that tension that works for you. So let's go ahead and put the external weight on, just kind of see how that feels. I can already tell before I make this row, it's not gonna feel too difficult because again, it's only 45 or 90 pounds on each side, or 90 pounds total. I would say I'd need at least another 45 on each side. And again, that's the great benefit with resistance bands, is that for a low cost option, I can throw that heavy band setting on, and certainly, like I said, I can fine tune it, but I can make it very, very difficult, very, very quickly and easy, versus with bands, at least for a row, pump on a lot more weight to kind of give me that same enough of a stress where I can really only get maybe 10 to 15, maybe even less than that. So feels pretty good. Again, nice even kind of setting. But if you ask me right now, as far as rowing, which one do I think I'd like more? I probably would say I'd have to fine tune this to a certain setting, but I probably, at least with what I got right now, I'd be more apt to increase resistance using my resistance bands for a row than I would using external weight, given the stuff and the equipment that I have right now. All right, now I'll just kind of give legs a try. I have the middle pulley detached. I'm just gonna start with the external weights first, then I'll do resistance bands. And I already kind of know what I think is gonna happen here, but again, this is nice. There's definitely a lot of options. You guys might have saw on the last workout video, I did some single leg stuff that I think really makes a difference as far as upping the intensity with external weight. But it's nice. I just feel like if you really are gonna wanna stress your legs with external weight, again, getting to something where it's hard enough where you start really having to lower the rep count, you're gonna need a lot of weight, at least I think for most people, because the legs are so strong and because you have a lot of assistance considering this thing's on an incline. Let's go ahead and throw on some resistance bands. Same thing, I'm not gonna fine tune it, even though that would definitely be ideal. I'm gonna go again, just to the strongest setting on this SunPow band set. And since you got bands really pulling you, we're gonna have to anchor ourselves holding on to this weight bar attachment. All right, again, we got this problem now where I really don't have any tension until right about here. And this little bit is where I'm getting that tension. You certainly can anchor this to different points underneath the carriage right here and leave this weight bar attachment hooked up. That would definitely be good. But I just wanna show you just total tension given with what we got. And you can just see just the amount how hard, this is definitely harder is my point. With a cheap resistance band, a cheap strongest setting resistance band, you know, it still feels much more difficult on that. Now I'm just gonna throw on this medium style Ultra Sun band on here. I'll attach it on. And even this little difference here, you'll notice, makes a difference. All right, so I think I'm kind of illustrating my point here about comparing these big movement patterns that I think both is ideal, but if you're thinking between to yourself, like which one should I start out with first? This is the question I'm basically getting. I would steer people more towards resistance bands first because you have so many options and versatility. The only downside, and this is why I actually don't use these as much, not that they're not good, it's just that it takes a little bit of time between sets to kind of switch these things out and find what works for you. I didn't show you any of the single joint stuff like curls, tricep extensions, lateral raises, frontal raises that you could do on here as well. So that's something to consider. Definitely though, that now we're getting into smaller body parts that they definitely feel good using the external weight, but then you're going to be needing like smaller weight increments to really fine tune things, like say for a rear delt fly or a lateral raise, to have it work for you. Versus if you had a set of resistance bands that has a bunch of different settings, I think you can find some extra tension or resistance that really stresses those muscles adequately and not get to the point where, you know, you're having to like cheat and kind of force yourself through things. If you gave me the option of one versus the other and you gave me a whole assortment of external weight, different increments and stuff like that, which one would I prefer? What tension would I prefer? I would probably more so prefer the external weight. Again, I like resistance bands for a number of ways, but I just like the natural feeling of weight. And even when you don't have the external weight, I always feel like, and I've said this a lot, that a total gym or sliding bench trainer really does feel, to me, very comparable to that resistance I got on a cable machine, or just comparable to external weight that I get, the way it's kind of placed and displaced in my muscles. So I do think that I kind of like to replicate that feeling, versus when I put the resistance bands on, this tension or what I kind of feel like, just as you would think, just feels a lot more elastic and feels like you're working with resistance bands with that kind of same motion. So it kind of depends what you like. If you're someone who likes resistance bands a lot, likes that feeling of them, I would say you're gonna probably wanna mess around with this a little bit more. If you're someone who's more accustomed to external weight and doesn't mind kind of spending some extra money, probably a lot of extra money considering all the different weights and increments and sizes, then yeah, I would say the external weights are the way to go. So personally, just doing this brief comparison from not doing it for a long time, I'm probably gonna be more likely to kind of buy some more of these. I might even look for like a small weight tree online. So if you guys got one, let me know, but I'll look for an external weight tree. I'm probably gonna invest in more of this. Not to saying I don't like these, I think they're still awesome, but I kind of do prefer the tension that I'm feeling with this. So that's it, you guys. Any questions, comments, feedback, and again, your thoughts on the matter, definitely let me know, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you.